My guest on Straight Talk this week is Malcolm Pearson, leader of the United Kingdom Independence Party, known as UKIP. Malcolm Pearson, you were appointed to the House of Lords by Margaret Thatcher in 1990. Why did you desert the party whose leader gave you a seat in Parliament?
Well, I felt I was still being loyal to Margaret Thatcher when I left the Conservative Party. But she only lasted for a year after I was put in, and then we got John Major, which wasn't the same thing at all. And in the end, I felt I had to leave the party because I'd given up hoping that the leadership, the foreseeable leadership, would ever take an honourable position on our membership of the European Union.
But Margaret Thatcher, although undoubtedly became a Eurosceptic, of that there is no doubt, she's never wanted to leave the European Union.
Well, I don't think I should comment on Margaret Thatcher's pronouncements since she left office. But she has made it perfectly clear, I think even in her last book, that she felt deceived over the Single European Act. And she did vote with us and take a very active part in 1992 when we wanted to get a referendum on the Maastricht Treaty.
But your core policy is for Britain to leave, cease its membership of the European Union. And that is not something Margaret Thatcher has ever espoused.
Well, I don't want to comment on Lady Thatcher's views.
Are you saying that because privately you've heard her say she has?
If she had said it privately, I wouldn't tell you what her views were.
Well, had she said it roughly, privately?
Not roughly or privately or in any way.
So you agree with me, she doesn't share UKIP's policy of leaving?
I don't know what Lady Thatcher's latest view is on the Lisbon Treaty and where we are now with the European Union.
OK. Why did you become leader of your party, of UKIP, after joining it for only 2 years? It seems a sudden and dramatic elevation.
Well, I have been very Eurosceptic, and I've known that this country in the end has to leave the European Union. Since I made the mistake of reading the Treaties of Rome in 1992, which not many people have done.
I'm just puzzled as to why you suddenly became leader of your party after only 2 years.
Well, because at the spring, there's a conference in Milton Keynes, whenever it was in September, Nigel Farage stood down as leader at very short notice. And because he's got a big job to do in the European Parliament, he wanted to fight the Speaker in Buckingham, and he felt the load was just too much. So he stood down, which was quite a shock to all of us. And I then was lobbied by a number of people asking me if I would stand for the leadership.
Did you want to do it?
No, not
you
particularly.
You had to be dragged like the Speaker to his chair.
I wouldn't say I was dragged. I mean, my initial reaction was, I've never really been a politician. I've got a distaste for the political class as a whole, although I have friends as individuals who are politicians. And I didn't want to do it, but I was in the end persuaded that I should try to do it. I should run for the leadership. And, now I'm very glad that I did, and it is a very great honour.
But no other party leader has sat in the unelected House of Lords since Lord Salisbury in 1902. This is 2010. It's not very 21st century.
Well, I don't see why not. In that sense, it's an honour, if you like. And anyway, I was elected to the
I
was elected to the leadership. But there were some other candidates.
It's a Victorian honour to have a leader of a modern democratic party in an unelected Lords.
You may take that view, but we'll have to see what the electorate make of it.
Indeed, but is there a defence of it?
We shall see.
But all the main party leaders, Gordon Brown, David Cameron, Nick Clegg, they're all giving people the opportunity to back or sack them on May the 6th. We have no opportunity to back or sack you. You're in the Lords, whatever the result.
Well, I hadn't looked at it like that. On the other hand, I don't think Gordon Brown was elected as leader of his party. He just took over.
No, I agree he's been elected. Of course he's different.
Well, there it is. Perhaps I'm an anomaly. But as I say, we'll have to see what... Well, I don't think this worries, as far as I can tell, I don't think this worries the electorate at all.
Your party argues that nothing can really change in Britain for the better until we leave the European Union. And there is a clear Eurosceptic mood in this country, which I think is hard to deny. And a lot of the printed press is Eurosceptic as well. Why has this general feeling, almost of hostility at times, to Europe, not translated itself into a a higher share of the vote for your party?
Because I think the question of leaving Europe is always quite far down the opinion polls, and it's quite boring. Europe is remote to the people, and it was designed to be so. But the fact does remain that we say a large majority of our national law, and the government says a majority of all law affecting our business and commerce and all that, is now made in Brussels. And the people, and Parliament is completely irrelevant from that. After the process of EU lawmaking, where the laws are proposed in secret by the Commission, negotiated in secret in the Committee of Permanent Representatives. I mean, all this is very boring. I mean, people are losing me as I say this.
I mean, a House of Commons library study said it was less than 10%.
Well, but that's because they included all law. We're talking about national law. We're not talking about statutory instruments and street cones and local government legislation. The figure we rely on is that of the German government and the previous German Chancellor.
Given that that's true...
And that is 84%.
Right, let me not argue with that. Let me accept that for the basis of this argument. And given, again, this Eurosceptic attitude in Britain, all the more remarkable that in 2005, in the last election, you got 2.3% of the vote. Yep. You had 496 candidates, 458 of them lost their deposit, which means they got less than 5% of the vote.
Yeah, I think the party concentrated too much then on the business of leaving the European Union. What we are going to do this time is to widen that debate and to show two key policies. I think the two key policies of this election are probably, two areas of this election, are probably going to be the economy and immigration. And we are going to lead on those as problems that you can't really solve if you stay in the European Union. And I say that because what the political class, if I may say, the three failed old parties, as I call them, refuse to discuss, and the government and everyone has refused to discuss for years, is the cost of our European Union membership.
Let me come on to that in a minute, and I will.
But if I could we're also going to discuss immigration, because also the problem of immigration, of controlling our borders, cannot really be adequately done while we stay in the European Union.
Isn't it harder in the aftermath of a major global recession where this country has been reeling, that in an age of uncertainty, people don't really want to leave the EU? They may not warm to it, they may resent it at times, but they don't want to leave it.
Well, that is because there is a well-worn soundbite which has been used by the political class, by the three failed old parties for many years now. And that soundbite has gone into the subconscious of the British people. And it runs along the lines of 3 million jobs and 60% of our trade depend on our membership of the European Union. Now they say are linked to our membership of the European Union. And in doing so, they imply that were we to leave the political construct of the treaties of Rome, were we to leave the European Union, that our trade and jobs would in some way suffer. And this is, in a way, the heart of the economic debate when we're talking about the EU and our economy. Because of course, it isn't true. Once you've withdrawn from the Treaty of Rome, otherwise you've repealed the 72 Act, what changes? Nothing in our trade changes because, first of all, we are, if you like, the EU's, although it's not the EU, it's all the companies that trade together and interact. We are their largest client. They sell us far more than we sell them. And there is no question that were we to leave the political construct of the EU, our trade and jobs would continue exactly as is.
Well, you would hope so, but I think...
Well, why wouldn't it? Sorry.
The point I'm trying to make is that at a time when we've had this terrible recession and that we have a recovery which even the Prime Minister describes as fragile, you would not want to knock that in any way with a game-changing move like withdrawal.
But if we were to have a referendum, because we would reach this position via a referendum of the people, which was incidentally promised by all three parties to the people, we would have a referendum campaign, obviously, and we would be able to explain precisely why leaving the European Union can only be of huge benefit. Don't forget that the the Taxpayers' Alliance have put the cost at the overall cost of our EU membership at up to £120 billion. Now, that's a huge figure in the context of the economy. Worse than that, you're looking at the failed main parties now vying with each other to save, I don't know what it is, 11 billion from public expenditure. But what is the sum of money we send in cash every year? Part of the 120 billion. It's 16 billion. OK, I'll give you 2 billion of that for our agriculture, if you like. But that is the gross figure.